Okay. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapad Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading uh, Canto 3, Chapter 14, 30th and 31st verses. We had very wonderful discussions last week on the glories of Lord Shiva, and it was culminated yesterday by Prabhuji explaining about how Lord Shiva's interaction with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So from today, the direction of the topic will change. So far, Kashyap Muni was trying to persuade Diti. So now onwards, it's a little different direction. So we'll go with the 31st verse. No, 30th verse, right? First is, we have two verses today, 30th verse and 31st verse. Okay. So the verse goes as Saivam Samvidite Bratra Manmato Unmatendriya Jagraho Vaso Brahmarshe Vrishaliva Gatatripa Saivam Samvidite Bratra. So basically, Kashyap Muni explained all the rules and regulations of the scriptures for a restrained sex life. But man mato uthendriya. So, but the mental energy is very strong. So Cupid attacks, and then indriyas, the senses, lose control. And when that happens, what Diti does is Jagraho Vaso Brahmarshi. So Brahmarshi Prabhupada explains that a Kashyap Muni was such a great and a learned sage. So Diti just pulls his vasa cloth, then how she pulls his Vrishaliva Gatatrupa. Like a Vrishaliva is like a prostitute and without shame. So that's what happens in this verse. And the word to word meaning goes as Maitreya Ovacha. Maitreya said, Sa, she, evam, thus, samvidite, in spite of being informed, Bratra, by her husband, Manmata, by Cupid, Unmatita, being pressed, Indriya, senses, Jagraha, caught hold of, Vasaha, clothing, Brahma Rishi, of the great Brahmana sage, Vrishali, public prostitute, Eva, like Gatatrapa, without shame. When I suggested the title for this topic, I said the benedictions from Diti, Mother Diti, and I was so much debating here. Prabhupada is, right and left, putting the situation as a public prostitute and so on. I was so much debating, but she's my hero actually. I have two heroes from the Bhagavatam. She is my second hero, and the way she did things, she handled things, it's like way off for me. Right after these verses, Kashyap Muni cleanses himself by bathing and doing the mantra, and she was also regretful, and she was also scared because she stopped his worship and caused inconvenience to him, and she offended him. So she was in that fearful mode. And when she comes, and then she comes and asks him to pray for the protection of the embryo. And then Kashyap Muni, as usual, he takes on the haughtiness like any other husband that goes between the wife and husband. Although there's a both mistake, and actually there is extra responsibility. The Kashyap Muni is Brahmarshi, but he is still haughty on her, and then he gives left and right that the demons will be born, and then they'll be killed by Vishnu, like that. But wonderful Devahuti, just hearing that words that they will be killed by Vishnu, Chakra Vishnu, she feels very glad and she feels very happy. And then she makes one more request to Kashyap Muni. Wow, very nice, very nice. Please, make sure they will not get the wrath of the Brahmanas. They will not offend the They will not offend the Brahmanas. And Prabhupada also explains there, even Lord Brahma gets astonished. He says, who could meet such a blessed death? They got the death in the hands of the Lord. So that's coming in the future chapters. So, she feels very happy, and Prabhupada explains that, what else do we need? Seeing the arms of the Lord and dying, that's it. That's the formula for getting liberation. And he also explains one more nice thing there. I'm not remembering. But in any case, she gave such a glorious death to her sons, and she even protected them from the wrath of the Brahmanas. And finally, she helped appearance of wonderful grandson Mahabhagavata. So all these are such a benedictions. And I thought, like, Prabhupada, if Prabhupada encounters anyone in this situation, and he will not be, he'll certainly appreciate. That's the reason I went ahead with this title. So now we'll get into this wonderful translation and purport. Maitreya said, Diti was thus informed by her husband, but she was pressed by Cupid for sexual satisfaction. She caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahmana sage, just like a shameless public prostitute. Purport: the difference between a married wife and a public prostitute is that one is restrained in sex life by the rules and regulations of the scriptures, whereas the other is unrestrained in sex life and is conducted solely by the strong sex urge. All the very enlightened, Kashyapa, the great sage, became a victim of his prostitute wife. Such is a strong force of material energy. So that's the verse. So there is restrained sex life as per the rules and regulations, and then unrestricted sex life, which is equated to the prostitute life. But when Manmata, Unmati, when Manmata presses his power, Indriyas is gone. It, they have no ability to hold it except Krishna and his devotees. So here Kashyap Muni is a great sage, very enlightened person, but he became victim of the strong force of mental energy. Okay, the next verse. Sa viditvata bharyayas tam nirbandham vikarmani natva dishtaya rahasi tayato upavivesha hi. Sa viditvata. So Kashyap Muni understands his wife's purpose. Actually, his wife's determination. And then he gets too obligated to her. Bharyayastam. And then with that obligation, he decides to do vikarma. Basically, against the rules and regulations. Going into this situation, he offers respects to his worshipful Lord. Natva offers respects. Staya offers respects to his Lord. He knew that his Lord Shiva will not be happy, and the child will not be very good progeny. But Rahasi, in a secret place, Taya Ata Upaviveshahi. So he goes and enjoys with her. Understanding his wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden act, and thus, after offering his obeisances unto worshipful fate, he lay with her in a secluded place. Purport: It appears from the talks of Kashyapa with his wife that he was a worshipper of Lord Shiva. And although he knew that Lord Shiva would not be pleased with him for such a forbidden act, he was obligated to act by his wife's desire, and thus he offered his obeisances unto fate. He knew that the child born of such untimely sexual intercourse would certainly not be a good child, but he could not protect himself because he was too obligated to his wife. In a similar case, however, when Haridas Thakur was tempted by public prostitute at the dead of night, he avoided the allurement because of his perfection in Krishna consciousness. That is the difference between, sorry, I missed the thing. That is the difference between a Krishna conscious person and others. Kashyap Muni was greatly learned and enlightened, and he knew all the rules and regulations of systematic life. Yet, he failed to protect himself from the attack of sex desire. Thakur Haridas was not born of a Brahmana family, nor was he himself a Brahmana. Yet, he could protect himself such an attack due to his being Krishna conscious. Thakur Haridas used to chant the holy name of the Lord 300,000 times daily. So here Haridas Thakur was actually not able to just protect himself, but actually he protects the prostitute also. Here Diti is a wonderful Vaishnavi, and she just only little bit forced him. But in case of Haridas Thakur, it is Maya Devi personified, and her actions are much, much more powerful and much forceful. But Haridas Thakur actually not only protected himself, but actually gave such a wonderful protection to Maya Devi also. So that's how Srimad Bhagavatam stands wonderful all the time. And it is Amala Purana. I was reading the preface of the first canto, and Srila Prabhupada is quoting this Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada quoting Prahlad Maharaj, who was saying this Bhagavatam should be given to the people from the Kaumara, from the childhood. Actually, Prahlad Maharaj even received it from his womb. So Bhagavatam always stands pure, and the content also always stands pure. So now the question is whether this act of Diti is good or bad, and especially this verse particularly states it's like prostitute and so on and on. So to save ourselves from going towards discriminating whether it's good or bad, I want to go to Uddhava Gita, where Krishna says that, my dear Uddhava, you just need to give up all good and bad. There is nothing about good and bad. And then you should give up this jnana and karma and all those things. Then Uddhava really gets into confusion. Two confusions he gets into. Really? If you give up the good and bad, then what's the use of all the scriptures? And how can there be a direction in the life, in the society? And the second question he puts is, so if you're asking me to give up all these things, so would you ask in the future to give up bhakti also? So then Krishna answers it in an interesting way. He says that I never created good and bad, but I only created qualification. That qualification is when someone is really attached to sense gratification, then they can follow the karma kanda or karma yoga. And then if they're detached, they can follow jnana yoga. But if someone is in between, between renunciation and then karma, they are the best candidates for bhakti. Like that he explains, and he explains the glories of devotional service and so on. And there he says, I'm referring to backward glance. So Burijan Prabhu writes, Krishna again defines good and bad relative to one's fixedness in his prescribed duties. That says, it's from the second verse from the 21st chapter in the 11th canto. The standard is, steadiness in one's own position is actually declared to be actual piety, whereas deviation from one's position is considered impiety. In this way, two are definitely ascertained. So there, Krishna explains there are 6 objects that should be cleansed. That there are the 6 objects are something like, I forgot to note it down. Dravya, something like that. Where is it? Yeah. So he he says, and there he says, actually, one not having sense control or engage the senses in the Supreme Lord, that is impurity. So that is how here the act of Mother Diti is actually considered inauspicious. One second. Yeah, here is the problem. My dear devotee, what is the effect in in comparison? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, when one loses to sense gratification, that's when it becomes inauspicious. Actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that most auspicious of all times is the moment one achieves the mercy of the Supreme Personality Godhead. If one neglects the loving service of the Lord, being carried away by sense gratification, he is certainly living in most inauspicious time. But that was only momentary, and the way she picked herself, which are the upcoming verses, is so glorious. He comes. She comes to Kashyap Muni and says, please kindly see that my embryo is not killed, and may he chastise. Is fine, but he is also auspicious and forgiving. He can forgive me, and so on. And Kashyap Muni gets haughty. It's a nice verses. I'm not going to read. It is 38 to 41. He's really like, your mind is polluted. You defile the time and you negligence of my direction. Everything is inauspicious and so on. He really gives left and right. And then when he says that they will be killed by the Lord, this is how the translation goes. It's very good that my sons will be magnanimously killed by the arms of the personality Godhead with a Sudarshan weapon. O my husband, may they never be killed by the wrath of Brahmana devotees, and so on. And seeing all this, Kashyap Muni really blesses that this wonderful Mahabhagavata is going to come. And also, Diti, in the next chapter, knowing the problem that they're going to cause, she holds the pregnancy for 100 years. Of course, the power of the presence of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha is so powerful. Even without coming out from the tummy, they're creating disturbance. But, you know, isn't it like in a wonderful Vaishnavi? So she is very inspiring for me. I really pray for her blessings to really to look to Krishna. You know, when lost control to the senses. Yeah, I mean, losing control to senses is not at all news in the Bhagavatam. So many Lord Brahma, last chapter, previous chapters, and then Lord Shiva, even wonderful devotee Jada Bharat, King Bharat. So that's the way it is. Krishna was also defining the qualification for Bhakti Yoga is neither attachment nor detachment. Actually, I found a very nice prayer, nice mode of the devotee uh, in that section. Yeah. Basically, it's a nice one. I will read this one. 20th chapter. By my previous shameful life, my heart is polluted with many illusory attachments. Personally, I have no power to stop them. Only Lord Krishna within my heart can remove such inauspicious contamination. But whether the Lord removes such attachments immediately or lets me go on being afflicted by them, I will never give up my devotional service to Him. Even if the Lord places millions of obstacles in my path, and even if, because of my offenses, I go to hell, I'll never, for a moment, stop serving Lord Krishna. And so on. It goes like that. And uh, there's one most nice sentence. Yeah, in the purport. Therefore, sorry, not this one. Um, yeah. Although I'm attached to material things, I can see very clearly that they lead to no good because they simply give me trouble and disturb my devotional service to the Lord. Therefore, I sincerely repent my foolish attachments to so many material things, and I am patiently awaiting Lord Krishna's mercy. So, like that, the devotees, like, uh, yeah, always, always stand powerful. In the backward glance, Krishna Chakravarti Thakura says actually the devotee cannot be uh, cannot uh, cannot be seen as a bad. It was said everywhere in the scripture, but um, yeah, because the reason is they're sticking to the wonderful process of devotional service. That process itself completely purifying. So, therefore, in a pure devotee who is constantly engaged in selfless service to Lord Krishna may not always observe the innumerable details of Vedic rituals and regulations, but such negligence is not to be considered a transgression. Yeah, sorry, I put through little confusion. The idea is that Bhagavatam stands amalam at any point and corner, and it is no way that it cannot be given to the person even before they take birth. Yeah, Bhagavatam always stands pure, and the devotees always stands pure, as Krishna is supremely pure, and and this process is also supremely pure. Um, so, wonderful example from Diti when we get bothered, when one get bothered by the influence of past karma or mental force or manmada, whatever we can say, she is standing unflinching in her devotion to the Supreme Lord. Actually, that's a recommendation of Krishna also in Uddhava Gita. Actually, he even tells, my devotee, although he is losing himself to sense control, he should stand happily. He cannot too much depressed about his falling down also. Well, then, uh, by standing so, Diti attracted such a wonderful grandson, Mahabhagavata devotee. Maybe also attract such wonderful souls to this moment. And if we see this kind of transgressions, let us be careful not to go with our measuring sticks, either whether we see in Bhagavatam or whether we see in real life or anywhere. Because Krishna clearly explaining that his devotee is beyond all this good and bad, you know, because the process is pure and he is pure and so on. So these are some um, thoughts I gathered on this subject. Thank you, dear devotees. If anyone can share something or add,
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much.
I will try.
Yeah, it's very nice class. So I was just thinking, about the Bhagavad Gita verse, right? My devotee will never perish. It
Yeah,
got rightly situated immediately. The act
yeah.
itself is not right what Diti did. I mean, from good and bad perspective, but immediately she got situated back again, right? So she kind of whatever she did after that also, right? It's not that the person itself is, but she is kind of a very great personality. That's why he's in Bhagavatam, pages of Bhagavatam. So, but yeah, to give a lesson to us, the act itself may be not right at that moment, but then how she reacted or responded to that, and then holding them for 100 years and then not to create that havoc in the society. So she was just kind of, and also requesting get what do you call wrath from the brahmanas, right, from those two sons, but the supreme lord killing them is good. So yeah, how she took that whole thing, right, it's very instructive for us. So and also, yeah, we don't want to put that personalities. Okay, see, this is very bad. I mean, of course, I mean, yeah, you said about the Uddhava Gita from quote also you gave. So, but I was just thinking, I mean, even a devotee in a mature stage or for pure stage, I mean, of course, he is not attached or detached, neither attached, neither detached. But I think, yeah, so I was just thinking about if somebody is completely detached, then for them it is very difficult to practice bhakti. I mean, to begin with, I
Mm.
mean, I'm talking about in the beginning stages. So maybe in the
Mm.
mature stages, of course, they are not attached or detached anyway. So, mm,
Mm. When Maharaj, Rompad Maharaj was giving the Gita series in Nepal, one of the series was Acharya principle. And I remember asking this question. I said, you know, for us, we can never stand exemplary. Like, it is not possible because we keep falling down like that. And then Maharaj gave an interesting reply, a little bit shocking reply. He asked back, what do we know about being exemplary or not exemplary? So similarly, what do we know whether this act is good or not? Um, except we are reading Sutta Maitreya Muni say this was like a prostitute. Even the wife is one of the roles also in some at some dharmic level. There are 7 characteristics or something for a girl, for lady. Um, Saineshu Ramba, Bhojeshu, Mata, Karnesh, Karyesh, Karyeshu Mantri. That's also there. So the standard is sticking to one's level of advancement is the piety, and falling down. Again, if a person maintains steadiness there, that is what the standard of right thing. So, moreover, the outcome is such a glorious outcome. It is so glorious. Like, wonderful Mahabhagavata and her sons, she delivered her sons also, and she tried to serve Vaishnavas also, holding the pregnancy. Of course, there is a little inconvenience. Yeah, this is our process of devotional service. You know, there's just losing oneself to the senses, and there is inconvenience, but the job is to again get up and continue. That is how the progress will happen. And one is come to the mature standards, you know, better. We are nowhere close to the standard. How much cautious we should be. Yeah,
yes, thank you.
right, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Because like we are just bubbling into the into the process. So and the standards of this process is so high and so glorious, so powerful, so much so. The reason there is no bad, the science behind that is explained is because the process itself is very purifying. You remember the prayashitta in bhakti is bhakti only. You remember the Sanatana Goswami says that in Nectar Devotion.
Yes, Prabhu.
So this wonderful process and wonderful literature and wonderful practitioners and devotees and so on. Yeah. We just need to move on, soaking ourselves with the words of Bhagavatam and Srila Prabhupada and so on. That's all.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bol Mataji.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Such a nice class, Prabhu. And, talking about some of these attachments and urges, simple things like overeating, eating, you shouldn't be eating sweets, still wanting to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, along similar lines, I mean, so many things that we know that we shouldn't or restrain from and whatever not, but it's sometimes hard to, and then you suffer through other health issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Krishna is not stopping us.
Krishna is still allowing us, but most of all,
And when we come back to the process, we are we are pure devotee again.
I mean, that's the
so much access he is giving.
and that's the best thing, that we have this this process and the devotees and the scriptures, I mean, to immerse ourselves into, even though obviously it'll take a lot of time and effort and perseverance to get out of
No,
proclivities.
it doesn't take so much time and effort. It is so quick, so much so, when we come back to the process of devotion service, we are again thinking we are pure devotees, to that kind of upliftment. And again, yes, we lose. But it's always a progress.
Yeah.
There is never a going back.
Yeah. And that's the I guess, in a way, sweetness of it.
Yeah, the outcome is so glorious. You see, the outcome is Mahabhagavata, and and then we see Haridas Thakur, he delivered the prostitute.
Mhm.
So wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. I think that's it. Kindly excuse me for going against any tangent, because the discussion is one direction. But I couldn't put either Bhagavatam or Diti any less than their actual positions. Kindly excuse me. Hare Krishna. Haripal Prabhu, ending, leaving. Okay.